Okay, what I want to do is two things at this point. First, to summarize the process going forward, so you have some idea what to expect over the next months, and then to answer, as frankly as I can, some of the blunt questions you've passed along to me in this process. I'm looking forward to the former, and see how I can manage the latter. All right, so with respect to the process, what our intention is to gather as a strategic planning team to try to synthesize the information that you all have laid out for us today and to rethink the framework in the context of that synthesis. Ultimately, then, that will lead to a draft text. We hope to have a text available for public comments in roughly the May timeline. That will be posted online. We'll give you a couple of months to make comments. We'll address every comment that we receive. Depending on the nature of the comments, if they suggest that they can be addressed effectively, we will go forward to concurrence review at that point, or we might go back to the drawing board and try again and repost for comments. So we don't want to predict a linear process here, because it's not. At that point, the agencies need to buy off on the strategic plan, all of them that will be affected. So this is a broad process, and the administration needs to buy into the strategic plan as well. It's only through that process that this plan, in the end, will have an impact. The plan then would serve as the basis for a road mapping process, that is to identify the program goals, initiatives, and short-term plans to pursue that, and also the plan itself would be subject to regular review, evolution, and revision. We hardly imagine one that will get it all right the first time around, or two that we're operating in a static landscape that's not changing. So that's the process you can expect going forward. So some of the blunt questions. Where are the government people at the forum? First, we've had a convergence of events. The process of planning for stimulus spending is kind of on the front burner. An awful lot of people are being called up to OMB for their budget presentations, their budget planning work, and so that's not a call you can ignore. And so there are a number of people who are participating online for that purpose, and we have the archive version to review. So all of them will have the chance to review that. As I said, we will spend the next period evaluating all of the things we've heard, assessing their meaning, and revising the approach. Another question I got, has this forum been successful, and did we, the government, get what we need? Look, one of the basic questions in holding this forum was to see whether you all were going to be willing to contribute to the framework. We spent the first part of the strategic planning process addressing the question, should there be a strategic plan? It took quite a while to work through that question. The fact that we're here suggests that the answer was yes. The next big question was, is it feasible, is it possible to design a meaningful framework, a credible framework that covers the full networking information technology landscape and the full range of agency missions that are relevant to the NITRD program? So we brought you here to ask that question. My take on the outcome is that, indeed, while we have much work to do, that it is possible with your input to design a framework that will help all of us go in the same direction. Now, we're never going to get that perfectly right, but I think we can get it more right than wrong. And one of the important issues that came up in this meeting was
the issue of substance, that of course the issue of bumper stickers and the right label is important, but an even deeper issue is that the elements of the framework have to be tied to substance, that it shouldn't be fluff, that it should have a solid grounding in the real networking information technology challenges, and be cognizant of the landscape on which the plan will play out. Another question, are we really listening? The fact that we held this forum and brought you here is one important measure of that. Look, my sense of the framework and what it means and how it will play out has changed dramatically as a result of this meeting. Now, I can make lots of assertions about whether we're listening or not. You're only going to believe what you see. Right? You want results. And so I guess my answer to this is read the text when it comes out, comment on that, see if we've been listening, and hold us to it. Okay? And then finally, will we get it right? Well, there are very few guarantees in life, and in this government is like real life, which is an unusual circumstance. I can guarantee you some things and not others. I cannot guarantee you that we'll get it right. On the other hand, I can guarantee you that we cannot have an impact if we don't try. And so that's what we're about. We've been working hard for some time now. I believe we can have substantial impact. I believe we can work together to make real progress. And I believe it's worth the effort. We will not get it right, but I think we will have an impact. And that's what this meeting has been about. So we held this forum because we thought you could contribute. You proved us right. You have contributed. We want you to keep doing that. This is a continuing process. We are only mid-course here. We brought you early because we wanted to be able to respond to what you had to say. We'll be doing that. We'll be finding other ways of getting your input, and we'll continue. So I want to thank all of you for all of the work that went into this, not just the travel and the time out of your schedule, but the deep thought that went into thinking about these concepts, imagining how they play out in the landscape, criticizing the things that needed criticism, all of that. We greatly appreciate it. We'll be working hard on this, and we'll be in touch. So thank you very much for attending. I hope all of you travel well, and I see my colleague Jeanette would like to make a comment as well.
I'll let you have the last word.
I always have the last word, Jeanette.
I was not on the agenda to speak, but I heard all these tough questions, and I thought I'd help Chris answer some of them. First of all, I want to thank all of you for attending yesterday and today and all the helpful discussion. I assure you that as much as we were, reading our Blackberries and doing stuff, we were listening. And in fact, I was listening very carefully to not just what was said, but what was not said. And this was very helpful to all of us. First of all, let me actually apologize this morning that I was actually called to give a presentation to OMB because of the exciting stuff happening with respect to money. I remember, if I just may digress, at Carnegie Mellon we hold these Black Friday meetings every semester, and they're required meetings that all faculty must attend. And in the old days, when the DARPA program manager would call a PI meeting, guess which meeting you attended? The DARPA PI meeting, not the Black Friday meeting. So in any case, we have a really difficult task ahead of us because the strategic plan that we write will, in fact, have multiple audiences. Clearly we want to write something that's compelling and inspiring that congressional staffers can read and say, oh, this is what NITRD's, new vision is for itself, and here's how the federal government can invest wisely in information technology research and development and so on and so forth. So the strategic plan really has to speak at that level. At the same time, it can't just be buzzwords and fluffy or the usual stuff, because they'll say, well, what's the difference between this and what we saw 5 years ago? It has to have substance, and that's what Chris was saying. And that is another reason we were listening quite carefully to some of the substantive comments that you were given to flesh out some of the high-level ideas that I think all of us agree with respect to where we see the vision of computing going. So that the document is really going to have to, the third audience, of course, is that actually has to speak to the agencies in NITRD. So it has to appeal to the basic research agencies like the National Science Foundations all the way to the mission-critical ones where they don't typically do basic research. They are very concerned about deployment of state-of-the-art technology. So this is not easy. The other audience is, of course, all of you. You have to believe in this too, because it's your belief in it and your backing of it that in the end is going to make the difference with respect to how we thrive. So I hope you understand the difficulty of the task we have ahead of us, but the importance of it as well, especially at this critical time with a new administration here, very IT savvy, uses the word science and technology and innovation and universities and so on. So it's a really good opportunity for us. And finally, I want to really emphasize that it's government, industry, and academia all working together on this. And so, again, it was critical that we had input from our friends in industry as well as the academic people in the room. So thank you very much. Yes, Maria.
So I know several people have said this already, but I want to echo the thanks that I think everyone feels for bringing a group of people together and allowing us to comment. And I think everybody in the room actually understands how complicated this task is in terms of the varying audiences that need to read things. I've personally been quite critical over two of the themes and over the structure. And I'm sure you've heard, even though I've expressed them primarily to Chris, I'm sure you've heard about it, Jeanette. I would hope that we get to a place where at least the academic computer science community can really buy into this as a plan, because I truly don't think we're there at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Maria. Yes, Vin.
No, I'm Bob.
Bob, sorry. Sorry. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No. All right. So how can I'll change my question then.
No. I'm so sorry.
First of all, I also like to express my thanks. I think this was very useful. We're happy to help. But I did notice, Jeanette, that you mentioned that you had heard what was not said at the meeting as well as what was said. And I wonder if you could give us some sense of what you heard that wasn't said.
What I did not hear, you mean?
And we'll be sharing that with the government folks as we plan. So
Right.
I would say we're going to try to work those things into the planning process, and I think at some point we're going to share with you what those things are.
Right, and I think
we want to reach agreement on that.
Right, and I think whatever draft we put together, we'll make that more explicit. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Sita, did you want to make any comments?
I'm so sorry.
I think Jeanette and Chris have said it, but I wanted to add my thanks as well. I think I did stay here the 2 days. I didn't have to go to OMB. I've just been dealing with BlackBerry issues. So, But it's been a very fascinating discussion, and I'm greatly appreciative of everyone's efforts to really put the ideas and concepts on the table and give us so much work to do that we're going to be very busy people trying to distill what we've learned today. So thank you very much. Have good trips, everyone.